Welcome to the Gentleman's Talk, where the podcast talks about a man's battle with mental health, his personal experiences, and his journey to be a better soul. Hosted by James Dean Littlejohn.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Gentleman's Talk. How are you? Hope you're okay. And I hope you've been progressing through life, perking yourself up, real positive, nurture those positive thoughts. I'm doing okay myself, personally. This is why I'm here today. I was going to do a podcast yesterday. Unfortunately, the typical male in me completely forgot that it was, in fact, my anniversary. Don't worry though, Moonpig saved the day. It was my anniversary yesterday, 19 years. So, basically it was just a nice evening. I mean, we've got 3 daughters, so you don't really get much time alone anywhere at the moment. So, it is what it is. We had a nice family meal, and I had a glass of gin, so it was okay for a nice Tuesday. So doing okay really, and just kind of, I've had this churning from my head because I've done some really, done some good work lately, some good podcasts. I mean, in terms of me, it's really helped me. Certainly pulled me out of the negativity a lot quicker than I usually do, and sort of following on really from what I was saying, and sort of kind of trying to remove those negative thoughts and basically try and promote positivity. Certainly that's what I've had. To be honest, just to give you a little bit of feedback as well, I suppose, just to, obviously that I've been, I go through this roller coaster of emotions, and last week I was awful, and then I've just kind of used all these coping mechanisms to really sort of perk myself back up, pick myself back up, and get me back on track again, because it's really important to do that. And what's encompassed with that is all this positivity that's around me at the moment, and it's quite overwhelming if I'm honest, and it's, to be honest, it's quite hard to tackle sometimes, because when you're getting a lot of positivity from people, and you're not used to it, I suppose, and it can become quite overwhelming, because you feel then that pressure, which is what I'm trying to avoid. And it's not intentional pressure, it's just that hoping you like almost wanting to constantly make people happy again. You're like, oh no, but it's not like that at all. I mean, that just grows and settles, with new friendships, and also when you're developing yourself. I know that I'm having to invest in myself, so I'm really developing myself, so I know that I'm going to go ups and downs. Like I said to you last week, that's really important though, that I'm addressing that. And here I am a week and a half later, where normally I'd have been in a slump for a good couple of weeks. I've managed to pick myself up, but that's been massively underpinned by the support I've had around me. Just the laughs. I've got like I said, I've got one of my friends that literally we've had conversations through Skype at work, and it's just been a bit of a laugh, and already he's given me some amazing positive news. When we were catching up the other day, he's been at the gym for 3 straight days, and I've said to him, fitness is, exercise makes you feel good, it perks you up, and you could already tell the difference in him in just 3 days of getting that adrenaline going, getting the cortisone going. Cortisone, sorry, adrenaline. I'm completely lost. I was reading something in mine. I can't even think of the word now. It's completely gone. But anyway, you're getting all the adrenaline going, and endorphins. That's the word I was looking for. Cortisone. Now, cortisone. That's something you put in your bloody joint. Get the endorphins going, and that really you could tell the difference in when somebody's on a roll, and that you don't realise what comes when you do those sort of things. That's like teamwork and team building. And if you're doing with someone else, it's even better. So I've been engaged with that, and that's like really important. Do you know what I mean? And we were having a bit of banter this morning. I think I was chucking it around that I was Baron of Bantersville, and I've forgotten what his was. He'll have to tell me. He'll have to tell me again. But it was just, yeah, it was just a good laugh, you know. So the positivity, and then, you know, positivity with talking to my brother daily now, and talking to my two friends daily, in our little positive vibes. It's just like really, it's amazing. Like sort of kind of super positive for me. I don't get it right all the time, but, you know, at the same time, you know, there is times where, you know, you can overwhelm yourself, and, you know, you don't want to have the pressure of not letting them down. Do you know what I mean? And all that sort of stuff. So it's really nice that you've got people around you that, you know, that are positive like that, and willing to push you, and willing to make an effort for you. You know, they're sort of kind of few and far between, aren't they? So yeah, I've been really, really positive with that, and kind of smashing into work now. I'm really settled in with work. And I've been really, really fortunate in work. I've actually got, you know, an amazing team around me. And I'm not saying that I haven't had an amazing team around me previously, because I have. You know, like I said, excuse me. That was my. I don't even want to know. It was my fruit shake. I'm not used to having fruit. My body's trying to reject it. It's not cake, mate. Get out. But no, it's, you know, I've worked with my best friend. So, you know, you can't get a better, and this is no disrespect to anyone I've worked with, but you know, you can't get a better working relationship than with your best friend. It's impossible. You know, you see it in the movies, and yeah, there is ups and downs. But if you watch Scrubs, I used to watch, and we relate ourselves to Scrubs anyway. We always wanted that. But if you ever watch the TV program Scrubs, it's absolutely fucking hilarious. And you know, we kind of relate ourselves. So we always, because we watched that, you know, in our 20s, that was what we wanted, and you know, we got it, and we had our ups and downs, but you know, ultimately we always pulled out of the bag. So I've had a good working relationship. So, but what I mean from that side of things is the working relationship I've got now, and I have been blessed, because even my last job, although, you know, I had troubles, you know, immediately around me to a degree, the wider extent of my job is where I've developed another friendship. So, you know, I've been really fortunate, and here I am now. We're working with a couple of guys that, you know, they're sort of new into the role. I'm sort of new into the role. We're really ambitious. You know, we all want to get this technical technical compliance and training. So we're really invested in helping each other, and it's like, it's nice to feel that, because you don't often get that when you go to a job. You almost you have a little bit of reservations, thinks that they're going to try and screw you over to make you look good, but we're not. We've gone into it going, no, we are a team, you know, so there's 5 of us, and we will take on everything as 5 of us, and that's really important. And we've all, you know, we're all singing off the same hymn sheet, so it's really nice actually to be part of a, you know, an organisation and part of a team that's very mature. In that sort of sense, where you don't want to get backstabbed. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm as childish as, you know, as I was when I was 10. Do you know what I mean? I've never grown up. So, you know, I meant, you know, even now, do you know what? I was writing a Skype message to one of my colleagues, and I interjected with a little bit of a quip at the end of it, and I actually deleted it, because I was like, that just isn't professional, James. And do you know what? That's so hard. But the way I've got this really weird thing now, and believe it or not, so how I deal with when I get frustrated, so on social media or anything like that, and I tend to go all in. And trust me, if you really know me, you've seen and heard reviews and you know, responses that I've given back, and I absolutely love tearing the shit out of people on social media. I know it's not in a negative way, but you know, when they say something negative and you go like back at them and go, what? And then they try and catch you out, and then they'll say something about grammar, and then you'll go back up and pick them up about grammar, and you just think, I just thrive on it. I think it's hilarious. However, I've acknowledged that I can't do that anymore, because, you know, I'm at a professional level. So what I do now is if I see something that I want to respond to, I actually, you know, I write the response down, and instead of clicking send, I just go delete, and then I feel like I've got the confusion out, I've got the frustration out of my head. So technically, okay, I didn't get comeback from it, but technically I wrote it, so it works. So I'm willing to take it at the moment if it's going to manage the way that I deal with things. So but yeah, I've had a real positive time, real positive engagement with work. I feel a lot less stressed in this job. Like, it's literally amazing, because I'm on flexi. Like, this afternoon was quiet, and I went downtown, and I was like, oh, I'll just go and grab something for the post office, and on my way around I'll pop into the garden centre. You know what I mean? And it was like, it took an hour, but half an hour that was my dinner, and then the other half an hour was fine because I had 18 hours flexi or whatever. So, I just made it up at the end of the day if there was something that happened. So, but it just felt so mature to be able to just manage your day and not have some idiot above you micromanaging your every single move. But you can I'm actually at a level where I'm managing my own day. Good, thank you. And it's really rewarding. So, I've built that up. Then incorporating that this weekend, I got the certification for my P900, P901, course, my Legionella course. The 3 certificates came through. So that was there were 3 exams that I did on the trot that literally blew me away, and I passed them all. So that was amazing. And then to top it off, I then get a letter through from my current degree I'm doing in level 6 degree in health and safety, and I finished module 2 in 8 weeks of just busting out evenings till 9-10 o'clock, and then weekends sitting there 3-4 hours writing up policies and procedures and risk assessments, doing all this in line with everything they sent out. So really been smashing in the hours, but it's paying off. I'm in a job where I'm comfortable, I'm enjoying it, I know what I'm doing. I work from home, for Christ's sake, mate. It's downstairs. I'm in the morning, I come in, log in, switch the email. While it's booting up, I'll go and make my toast. It's just such a mature way of working. I got a bit excited. So I don't know. It just seems to be, I'm developing that, and I'm trying to grasp onto it as much as I can, and make sure that I nurture it's just surrounding yourself with positivity all the time and doing positive things, not thinking about the negative, but thinking of a positive alternative, and just thinking about those sort of things is really so important to engaging with people daily. And I'm not talking weekly, monthly, yearly. Don't sit there and wait to the point where you go, all right, mate, how long's it been? 5 years? Fuck me, you live down the road, mate. That's not what you should be doing. You should be contacting people daily. If they are good for your mental health and they're good for the way you feel, then why would you not chase that daily? You're not with your partner for any other negative reason, apart from the fact that he or she, or depends on what your preferences are. But for me, I don't wake up every morning to go, oh my God, she's fucking next to me again. No, I don't want to wake up to that. If I'm doing that, and I fully appreciate there's probably people out there that are willing to do that, but that's not for me. When you wake up and you go, it's not for me, mate, and dig down deep. If you're sat there every single day not knowing whether it's a good day or a positive day, then you move on, don't you? You've got to, for your own sanity. But why would you not adopt the same ethos with your friends if they make you happy? When you were a kid, I reflect quite a bit, I think because I've removed so much of this brain fog, because I'm talking to you, and I was thinking about this the other day, and my brain fog is just it's almost like I'm analysing the last 10 years, but in so much more detail. It's almost going from I don't know, normal old 1980s black and white TV to 8K. It's literally that difference. So, but if you're sat there thinking like that, then you need to sort of kind of analyse yourself, and you shouldn't be there. And that's what I mean. It's like if your friends are making that same impact on you, and we appreciate some friends are stronger than others. So for instance, I know my best mate 27 years or whatever it is, around that time. I genuinely, we don't go a day, maybe a day at most, where we wouldn't talk and see how things are going, And yeah, there's times, normally over winter, we go a bit quiet like that, where we'll leave it a day or so because we're all hibernating. But summertime, fucking hell, it's photos, how's it going? And what you've been doing the day I'm here doing that. And it's really positive, and you're planning things to go, let's go play a bit of golf, let's do whatever. So if I did ever go to a point where I wouldn't talk to him for about a week, I'd feel a bit like, oh, that's a bit weird. Do you know what I mean? So because it's almost like that, because we perk each other up, and I've developed that now to, it's progressing even further to, engaging with my brother, on a daily basis again, and that really is rewarding for me. Engaging with my other friend and my other two friends daily now, and it's like really, really rewarding. It's like I get such different variations between them all in terms of what they offer me, and I don't mean it offer me as in like, here you go, sir. No, what they offer the party. So everyone has a different personality. So for all of them, I would be one of their four if that was we're going to put it in mathematical terms. So I'd be like one of their four. So I'm going to bring the same personality to each one of them. But they might have their four friends and, et cetera, et cetera. So they, four fours, exactly. So it goes to that sort of area is what I'm thinking. So, but for me, they're all four are my friends. So, and because I know that then, when I flip them around, they don't know each other. Well, they do, two of them do, but not as much. Then you can tell that there's going to be other elements to this. But they offer me that. And I get different levels of banter from them. I get different levels of response. One person is very, like, massively upbeat, really, really jovial guy, He's just a really, really enthusiastic guy. One's I've known for, say, 20-odd years, and he just brings so much in that sense of, like, a lot of historic banter and just like-minded friends. And I've got sort of my brother, he brings everything, he brings everything to the party, and we are literally, I mean, you could put us down as twins. We've all denied it for years. But yeah, we don't look like my dad's, and we look like twins. So no, I'm only joking. My dad's listening. But no, literally, me and my brother, if we were to dress the same, like mum and used to when we were younger, I do recall these absolutely horrendous, but I'd wear it now, peach jumper. Peach was the rave, man. It was like a pinky peach. Anyway, we used to walk around in it all the time. But yeah, we literally look alike. It's unbelievable. But there's 2 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, 2 days, something like, and 9:35 in the morning and like 9 something in the evening. It's like literally uncanny how close we are into comparisons. So yeah, I've got a lot in common with him. So he gives, and we do when we clash or we go into our little quiet zones. It's difficult because we do offload on each other quite a bit. So and then I've got this new guy who brings a lot of the sort of kind of banter that I'm used to. He's just absolutely on point, and he's really enthusiastic. And I've seen even just knowing him for a few months. Or so. Well, it's about a year actually. So I shouldn't say a few months. It's flying by. But I've even seen him grow. But we've only really spoke for about 3 or 4 months, like in depth, where we sort of kind of sort of dealt with similar issues, mental health issues, and obviously because I've been through it and I'm going through it and I've got a lot of experience. We sort of connected in that sort of sense, and then we just sort of kind of grew from there. But I've seen him grow, like massively, and like the positivity in around him. So it's really, really nice. I've seen all of my friends increase in positivity and re-engaging again. So for me, it's absolutely incredible what's around me at the moment. And I'm a big advocate in you carve your own path, so you can sit there all day long and say, oh, I'm going to try and do something, I'm going to try and do that. But you are your own destiny. Don't rely on somebody to do something for you. You need to make that effort to get out there. You need to make that effort for the change. You need to step up to the plate and go, now's the time. If you're not willing to do that, then people, and if you can look around yourself now and you think, actually, I did have 20 friends and now I've got hardly any, but I've not done anything, then maybe that you need to look and go, well, actually, maybe I was a problem and didn't realise it, But anyway, I just think that, you've got to step it up. And I've always, and through all of my podcasts and going forward, all of my podcasts, I will be promoting the positivity of pushing for good friends around you, good relationships around you to support you and get you to where you want to go with them, or help each other to get to your path. yeah, you might deviate, you might disappear for a little bit, you know, but at the end of the day, if you're good enough friends, and I've always told you, I've said this in the last one, 7 years is the key. You know, if you can hold and maintain a really good friendship in 7 years, you know, you're doing well, and you will end up being sat there on the some reunion somewhere or some sort of get together and go, fucking hell, all right, mate. You know, but anyway, that was a long digression, but I wanted to just give that kind of promote that positivity, really. But going on to about, you know, moving on to, you know, into the sort of topic of the realm that I was wanted to talk about, and that was incorporating with negative thoughts. Excuse me. And the negative thought aspect for me is what I think, and one of the biggest factors I found with negative thoughts for me, when I had, you know, when I was in the depths of the depression and the PTSD, and I still have a problem with it now, is the resentment factor. And I think that all my resentment for whatever scenario, because you know, if you've dealt with depression or PTSD or most mental health conditions, you know, everything's exacerbated, everything's enlarged. It's, you know, everything seems bigger than it really is because you're in a depressed state. You're negative. You're harbouring those negative thoughts. You've seen how different I am when you promote positivity compared to when you're negative. Well, if you're depressed, you're negative, aren't you? You know, so, but what happens is people will hurt you along the way. It's inevitable, and you'll probably be hurt more because you're in a vulnerable state mentally, not physically. I'm not talking physically. Walk around, you know, Billy Big Arms, you know, whatever you want to do. You know, you walk around carrying carpets, it does not matter. But inside you might be screaming. So mentally you are unstable. Mentally you're vulnerable. And that's the crux of it. That's the brutality of it. That you are vulnerable mentally, and if you are, you'll harbour negative thoughts. But to encompass negative thoughts, people will hurt you because you might, like you say, you might be a bit more sensitive. And then if they hurt you, and I've been in times where, you know, things are off of water. Normally, everything's water off ducks back to me. I really don't care what people think about me. I get a little bit personal about my weight, and I get a little bit personal about my family, you know, and my friends, because, you know, I'm a very protective person. But, you know, everything else, which isn't a lot, you know, it really, I can get quite angry, and don't ever hang up on the phone on me. And if you listen to that and do that to me, then you'll see I'm zero respect for that. So that's one of the things that winds me up, and all of my family absolutely know that if you hang up on me, I fucking lose it. My brother does it to me all the time. You know, it's come to be the norm for him. He'll absolutely give me abuse and then just hang up his phone. So I don't get to retaliate, and he hung up on me. So it's a 2-for-1, really. He's a bit of a fucking pro at it. You know, but at the end of the day, I'll always reflect back to the fact that, you know, I burnt his Zugly Teddy on top of a lamp and gave it to the fucking dog. So I'm always going to top trump you, boy. And that just proves that brothers will always fight to the death. Anywho, so yeah, so you'll have an element of resentment, and that can come really, really, you know, you don't even know it's there, and it just it manifests. It's almost as if it's like food for depression. That's the way I can describe it. If I was going to put that metaphor in my head now, I would say, right, something's happened to me. I've been hurt. Okay, I'm a little bit sensitive, a little bit vulnerable. And you go, okay, right, well, no, that's really fucking affected me, actually. Okay, yeah, that really, I fucking don't like that. Wow, that's really fucked me off. I'm fucking raging. Right, I never want to talk to that fucking person ever again. So, did you see how quickly that crept up? Well, that's almost like, I imagine, that doesn't happen overnight. You know, resentment is deep down anger, isn't it? You know, it's almost like, it's basically like an intense, like multi-layered emotion with like, and it's just like, and we'll talk about Witch's Brew because I used it on the last one, but it's almost like bitterness, sadness, humiliation, shame, anger, you know, all being stirred up in a pot. And, you know, that just manifests. And then when you're depressed, or you're, you know, or even if you're just like getting into depression and these things are happening, before you know it, you're deep in, because this is just feeding it. It's feeding it. And especially if you've got a slightly vulnerable personality, you're slightly a bit timid, or, you're naturally not a confrontational person, then, that will happen quite quickly. And I think that the therapist said to me that the problem is people like me. I've got quite a strong personality, and I'm really strong-willed, and I'm pig-headed, and I'm stubborn. So for me, I would have been diagnosed, and I probably would have had my emotions a lot earlier than when I'd had it. I wasn't diagnosed for 3 years. I just battled through until I was like, there's something fucking wrong here. So for me, that was probably that most people would get. If you look at statistics, it can happen quite quickly. It didn't happen. It just manifested. So you can imagine being strong-willed, liking confrontation. We're talking about how I loved confrontation because of the adrenaline rush it gave me. That adrenaline rush pulled me out of my sadness, so I lived on that. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm literally feeding myself anger to get my adrenaline spiked so that I can get myself out of my low spot and my feeling shit, and then just gun at everything and do everything. And that's what I was doing. And then I would do that until I literally would be exhausted. And then I'd be exhausted. I'd feel like shit. My body would fucking cramp up. I'd almost want to go sick because I'd be getting migraines. I can analyze this now because this is what I've done over the last couple of months. And this is what I mean about seeing an 8K. I never saw this pattern, but that's what I did. And if if my friend, if he's listening, will probably recognise this, that's what I used to do. There'd be times where I'd sit there so stressed, I'd go, I need to go for a sleep. And I'd just tell people I'm going to have to go and lie down in the office, because what I'd done is I'd fed on anger, emotion, even if it was going out and drinking and being wild, and then, do you know what I mean? I just kept constantly doing that. And the days in between, for a day here, I'd be exhausted, and then I'd recoup, and I'd be like, right, okay, you've had 7 hours sleep, boom, let's go again. And I lived on that for 3 years. So to get me upset when you went along the way, because I was a confrontational person, and I still haven't made up. I mean, I haven't spoke to my sister for I think I've spoke to her twice in 4 years, and she lives just down the road, because we fell out whilst I was in my depression, and she's not ready to accept my apology, and she's rightly so. I'm not forcing her to do anything, but I said some bloody horrible things. She said some horrible things as well, so this isn't a one-way conversation. I just basically said the truth, unfortunately, but I said the truth in such a way, it's quite damning, isn't it? And that's what I seem to do. So, I can hold on to resentment quite easily. It doesn't bother me. I've got this ability to just shut people out of my life. Once that's done and they've hurt me, I shut them out. And I find it very, very hard. And, there'll be someone listening to this that will, he'll probably understand that, he knows it firsthand how an incident that can happen can affect me massively. And because of the post-traumatic stress disorder, and because of the depression and when it happened and the way it made me feel with any of these incidents, it's really hard to pick myself up. It's really hard to deal with it, and it just manifested into more, to the point where it almost became a hatred, and I didn't know why. And then I haven't really spoken to the person and the individual people face to face to get it out, because the only way I deal with getting my problems out is a face to face. And if you allow me to be honest about my feelings and the way that it made me feel, and if I'd overreacted, I'll hold my hands up and go, yeah, maybe I've overreacted a little bit there. And I do that a lot now. I go, sorry, I've overreacted. That's fucking ridiculous. And if I have overreacted, I'll always apologise. But at the same time, it's nice for me to get closure, and I keep talking about closure all the time. But manifesting those negative thoughts encompassed with resentment about a situation, it just doesn't help. It just doesn't do anything, So it's really important to deal with the resentment. And what I mean by that is, if you don't deal with the resentment, then it's just going to continue. And if you're in the early stages of depression, or you're feeling low lately, and an incident's happened, or you're in the depths of depression, and you're listening to this and thinking, I'm there, there's got to be an end to it. You have to try and deal with it. Now, the way I deal with it is, as I've rightly said, normally I will always get an opportunity. I've sown the seeds, and everything's amicable with any resentment I've held. The people that I couldn't get past the resentment for, I no longer see. So if they still see me, then they know that I'm dealing with it in my own personal way. And whether that means I'm waiting for the right opportunity to sit down and talk, or it means the right opportunity for me to move on from it and just go, accept it, James, it was done and dusted, let's just move on because we've got one life, let's live it. So, but I've battled them, and the people that I haven't been able to do that to, and they've genuinely hurt me, unjustifiably hurt me, they're the ones I don't talk to anymore, and because I don't feel that they were appropriate in the way they hurt me. Some things can they can happen at the spur of a moment, and some things can happen and it's out of their control because of certain circumstances or your environment are in. But when you systematically hurt me, knowing what you're doing, that's really hard for me to get past. So, but they all know, and I know, and that's what this whole journey is about. It's about getting past all that and putting those all to bed and just nurturing that positivity. I can't talk about it anymore. I can, but I will. But you need to understand that's the crux of it, the basis, the very sticky mess of foundation is positivity. If you're not promoting some sort of positivity, if you're sat there questioning why you're going to work, questioning, your friendships, saying, oh, he's fucking let me down again, or he's done this, or he's done that. If you're questioning those elements, then you need to just move on. It's you shouldn't be there because you're just harboring negative thoughts. Move on, let those things go. If you can't let them go, find a way of letting them go. You have to, to caveat that, and I'm trying to put it into a little bit more context, but resentment is obviously that negative emotion. But we have to have an element of resentment. We have to have a bit, but there's good resentment and there's bad resentment. Like, good resentment to me would be something like, I should have gone for that job, or, I should have done that event. I should have gone there because you've seen that actually that was quite positive. I should have listened to somebody about that, or I should have listened to Dave. He told me to do that. Or, do you know what I mean? Normally you'll get somebody in your life giving you sound advice that you won't listen to, and then you transpires that they will have given you sound advice and you didn't take it, and now you're in a difficult situation. So, but I'm not saying they're always right. But at the same time, you might feel good resentment in the fact that you've given advice, you didn't take it, and that fucking crashed or did something like that. So you're like, it can be. But that's good resentment because you're learning from it. You're not harbouring a negative thought about it. You're embracing the fact that you resent the fact that you didn't go for that job, and now that job's absolutely flying. Do you know what I mean? So sort of equatable to sort of, I'm trying to think of a relatable thing. Like Daniel Ricciardo, for instance, moving away from Red Bull. He's regretting it now. He's got resentment. He should have stayed there, got his $5 million deal and a really good car. If you know F1, you'll know what I'm talking about. If not, I've just talked a load of bollocks. So ignore that. But anyway, I can probably put it in context, actually, for probably all of my friends, actually, So, like, one would say to me, he had resentment if there was an opportunity to buy a gun cheap, and he'd be like, yeah, should have got that. Didn't get it, and could have made a profit, or he could have had an amazing gun for next to nothing. I got my other friend who's like, literally, he turns around and says, I think he's a bit of a car man, really. So he just turned around and said, I should have got that, and I didn't, and I kind of, he feels resentment that he didn't get it. He didn't get resentment. He got good resentment, actually, in talking about a car, because he went and got a new car that is absolutely banging. So he's got good resentment. Good resentment for the fact that he listened to somebody and said, I need to get a new car. Listened to his missus, probably, actually, because he said that his missus was like harping on, and he's like, nah, it's his car. Turns out they got a new car, so he's wheeling it out there. And obviously, I'd probably look at my brother. He'd probably be sat there going, he'd probably resent the fact that he didn't buy the allotment if he had the opportunity to buy it cheap, because he didn't want too much pressure. And now he's seen old Paddy next door knocking out loads of tatties. You know what I mean? So, it's a bit of negative resentment. Do you know what I mean? So, but there's positive, negatives, and then obviously I've got my friend. I can relate all sorts to him. He'd probably have resentment for not buying a game at a cheap price, or not buying a console at a cheap price, or not buying a phone at a cheap price, or not buying a hot tub at a cheap price. So the key element there was the cheap price. So he will know he likes cheap. And I keep telling him, buy cheap, buy twice. So, so everyone's got a relatable context that you could look at that they would find it as a negative and a positive bit, resentment, but we're around a little bit. But that's a healthy resentment. That's not an unhealthy resentment. You're not turning into hatred. Another key way to deal with the resentment, and this is what I always follow. This is where I sort myself out. Talk it out, man. Just talk it out. So, the whole purpose is getting men to talk. If you have resentment for something, for somebody, whether it's a friend, a wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, whatever you want to pick, no labels, whatever it is. If you've got resentment and you're fucking sat there going, I resent what he's done, he's really, really upset me. He may not know. That person may not know that they've hurt you. If you address them, talk it out, and they acknowledge they've hurt you, then yeah, you've got that acknowledgement straight away. Brilliant. Okay, so you did hurt me then. And then you talk it out like adults, and you go, okay, well, can we get past this? Well, it wasn't that bad, I mean, if it was something like, yeah, well, I'm really, really angry, mate. You slept with my wife. You know what I mean? It's going to be difficult to get past that, isn't it? I know there's a few of my mates going, I did. Wait! And I know they were. There's another one for them. So that's the sort of shit they'll all be shouting in their cars now because that's what they do. Hey, that's banter. So, the thing is you've got to talk it out. You've really got to talk it out, because if you don't talk out your problems, and this is all incorporated. I'm doing a world symbol here. My hands are going like the world. And, if you're not talking about it and you're not getting it out there with the person, or asking for advice from a friend, because that's still talking, and they might be able to say, go and talk to the fucking guy. Or, excuse me. So I get really excited and I get a bit windy. I get too excited, I've got to slow down. But if you get to the point where, you're not talking about it, then all you're doing is you're just holding on to stress. You're tightening your neck, you're tightening your back, you're tightening everything up. It's just all tight. You're just going to hold on to it. It's going to lead into negative thoughts. Why have they not spoke to me? Why don't they do that? Because that's what you'd be saying in your head. Why haven't they fucking talked to me? They must know they've hurt me. They might not. They might be that clueless in life. I guarantee, my best friend, and I say this because I'm just putting in context so he can listen, and, everyone else can probably, close to me, can relate. But my friend, anyway, he is the sort of person that if he offended me, he genuinely wouldn't know. I was his boss. So, for me, people used to come up to me and go, Kieran's done such and such. And I've just said his name. What a fucking idiot. Well, there you go, Kieran. No, that wasn't absolute, because I was in full work mode then. You know what that was. That was one of those pixelated pixelated fucking videos where the camera moves round, but the pixels are on the screen, not on the not added afterwards. And then you see their face, and they're like, or they disguise the voice, but don't use a voice. It's their actual voice. Yes. Well, there you go. I hope you got a laugh out of that, because I certainly did. Anywho, we'll skip past the faux pas. And anyway, Kieran, yeah. So I will say his name now. There'll probably be, my mates will probably turn around. There's something like, it'll get to the point where be able to say names, actually. It'll be quite hilarious, actually, to involve them. Something's coming up at the end of this podcast that we'll talk about. But he's the sort of person that, yeah, I had people come up to me and they'd be like, oh, he's upset me. And I'd be like, what's he done? And they'd explain out, and I'd go, okay, mate, well, he's just fucking around, mate. And they're like, no, he's not. I'll be like, it is. Now, the thing with my mate is he's on point with banter. And if you know him with his banter, you know, he's coarse. He's very dry with it. He's straight in there. He doesn't hold any bars back, you know. So basically, for me, like whenever we've been in a scenario and I worked with him for 7 years, I could say something and he could say something exactly the same, and they would look at him and complain. And it's all in the delivery, because I think he's quite dry, and I bounce off that because I'm sat there and I'm like, I love when he has a couple of beers, and I mean, well, probably a couple of sips of a beer, because anything past a couple of sips and he's asleep anyway. But you get a couple of beers in him, and you can just, like, you know, almost pull the pin and just fucking watch him go. It's hilarious because he's so dry. And what was he? I'm going to say a little story about him, actually, that will probably show you how dry his personality is. And this is a real life scenario. And so we were out one night, and we were down the pub, and he was absolutely bollocks. And I was like, mate, we need to go home. And he's like, yeah. And he goes, there was a group of girls that walked past us, and already now he's cringing. I can tell he is. And they walked past us. And he said, they walked past, and he went, oi, what are you doing? And they were like, It's my 18th birthday, we're going out. And he was like, you're a fucking slag. He didn't know what he said. And I stood there and I was like, I am so sorry. We bought them drinks. And then we went back. But he didn't know. He didn't mean it like that. He was like, he meant it in that jovial, you slag. Like the jovial sense. But if you didn't know him, you wouldn't know what that was on about. The thing is, there was no malice in it, probably, but it was the delivery, and this is what I'm saying. So, you know, you can talk things out, but he wouldn't know he'd hurt you. It's the whole point of it. He wouldn't know because he's not that way inclined, and he hasn't got a bad bone in his body. You know, so you've got to look at that and go, well, I understand that because I've known him a long time, but not everyone would know that. So I think it's all. But if I always said to them, well, just go and have a word with him. And they're like, what? I was like, just literally go and talk to him, mate. So they would go up to him and talk to him, and then he'd come up to me and he'd be like, do you have a word with him? I was like, just said to go and talk to you. He was like, yeah, I genuinely didn't even know it was a problem. And then they hash it out, and it's not, that guy was just a bit more sensitive than the other one. So this is what I'm talking about. Everyone's got different levels of sensitivity. Everybody's got different levels of how they deal with resentment. Now, that other person might have had some sort of resentment towards Kieran and gone, you know, I'm not going to engage with him, you know, or whatever. So do you see what I mean? How our actions can affect other people as well. So it's really, this is where I keep, and I'll jump straight back into, let's promote positivity. So you're not feeling that around you. Obviously, it's out of your control at work to a degree. Some people you don't have to interact with, and some people you can choose to interact with them in different ways now. So you don't have to have face to face with them. You know, you can just have emails, and do you know what I mean? You can make it as impersonal as you want. So you don't have to worry about that too much. One of the important things, though, is if someone's talking to you, is to make sure you actively listen, okay? That's really, really important. Because if you're not actively listening, then you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to feel support for that person. One of the other things that, you know, before I churn on, but one of the final, you know, sort of two little bits, actually. So not finals, two little bits that are really, really important. And I think that this is something you need to do if you've been hurt, is first off, if you can't get to the point where you can talk to them, is try and put yourself in their shoes. Look at their life, look at what they deal with, etc., etc. As best you can if you know that person that's hurt you, which I would like to think they are, because if it's not someone you know to a degree, but put yourself in their shoes a little bit, and that might help you, give you a little bit more empathy, so you remove some of the element of resentment, because I held on to resentment for years, and that's where I allude straight back to you know, my sister. And it's not resentment, it's just we both hurt each other and we haven't moved on from it. I don't like resentment now, because all resentment does is just causes stress and emotions that don't need to be brought up. I'd rather, and the way I dealt with that originally, and the way I've dealt with it with my sister, is I've actively given her space. So I engaged with her and just sent her a message, for instance, and said, you know, I'm really sorry, I apologise for what I said. You've said some hurtful things, and I'd love to talk it out and let each other know how we made each other feel. I think it will probably help us move forward. I got ignored because, for whatever reason, she wasn't ready. Maybe I'd hurt her more than I'd realised. I don't know. Probably because at the time I was hurting a lot of people, and she is a a woman, and I've already spoken about how you can say things to women that they never forget, whereas men, we don't tend to hold on to resentment that much. We don't tend, or well, we do, but we tend to hold on. We don't tend to hold on to the minor details of the terminology that's used, if you like. So, but try and put yourself in their shoes. Try and understand, and that's what I did. I put myself in my sister's shoes, and I actually went, okay, I can really appreciate the difference between us, and I can understand that you would have just liked a bit of support. I was just a very selfish boy, a very selfish man, and I had my family, so I didn't feel I needed anybody else. And I became very selfish throughout of this last 10 years, very, very selfish. Anyone that's known me prior to this last year would probably know how selfish I was. PTSD and depression, and I'm not blaming it, I'm not saying it is, but I wouldn't have done it if I'd have not had it. So let's be honest. It made me a dick, basically. So for me, massively important to acknowledge that. And what I've started to do to get past some of the ones that I want to heal with, and I know they're not ready, is put myself in their shoes. But one of the most important things is that I've had to do, and this is where I allude straight back to what I did and what I've done with my sister, for instance, is I've found space for forgiveness. So I pulled away for a while because we weren't really engaging much, and when we were engaging, you could sense the bitterness. So I went, okay, that's that, and I've just pulled away, and I've pulled away from a few people, and some people I've tried to go back to, and it hasn't, and I've gone, no, that's it. We have cut the past. And that's what I said to you at the start of this podcast, was when I cut my ties, because there's too much emotion and negativity that is drawn up with returning back to you. So that, to me, at the moment, is I'm either not healed or I'm never going to heal, but I'll know by now because I've left it a significant time, depending on how I work. I've gone back because I was ready to engage with my sister, because I'd had my forgiveness phase, and she wasn't. So I was like, okay, well, I fully respect your, this isn't about me, this is about us. So, but because I've left on a good note with me, I feel that that's what I've done. So even when I've lost in touch with a really good friend of mine, who I spoke to you in a few podcasts ago, who the one that just basically stopped talking to me, and I tried to re-engage. Now, I refer back to, I left a nice message saying, if you do want to engage, mate, you've got my number, and I think that's really important, is if you can't resolve it and you don't resolve it, say for instance you go to make friends or you go to deal with it and you're having a face-to-face and you still don't like each other, just leave on a good note. Just say, I wish you all the best, or acknowledge that you're just not compatible. Christ, we're all different human beings, we're all built differently, so if we weren't, this would be a bloody boring world, wouldn't it? So for me, it's about acknowledging some people just aren't compatible. Some people just gel. Do you know what I mean? It's like me and my own daughter are way too alike. So we clash massively. So we've learned really early on, because I've got experience with this. I was very, very alike with my dad. Very, very competitive men, right the way through. And we were emotionally involved in our competitiveness, to the point where we would physically want to, we'd want to physically hurt each other if the other person was winning. We would do anything. So it was a very powerful father-son relationship, very powerful, but in the wrong time. We spent, well, he had to deal with my emotions as a 30-year-old going through PTSD and depression, not understanding himself PTSD and depression, because, from the generation he's from. So for me, it was very hard. We clashed a lot, but excuse me, I got excited again, see? But for me, I'm in a much better place, and I have been for the last, few years. And we've grown to the point where it's a really, really good bond. And that to me is just such a rewarding thing to have. To have, he's passed. The thing is, even when we've clashed, we've still always forgived each other. We've always moved on. We've known if we've ever come to, blows or whatever, we've always acknowledged of what it is. We've always been respectful of that and gone, we know what it is. It's not because I dislike you. It's because I want to challenge you. He wants to challenge me, and I want to challenge him. And I did. And unfortunately, I don't like to back down. He doesn't like to back down. And, it's two rutting stags, as they say. You know what I mean? And if he listens to this, he'll be laughing. And so, but at the end of the day, we've dealt with it. We've come out to where we are now. It's invaluable. I'm having the best quality time with my family. And to give you a quick context, so even my mum, I sent my mum a really nice message this morning, and because we'd lost touch of each other, and we've not engaged as mother and son as much as I have with my father, there's a little bit of friction there. So, she thought that there was something behind my message, and my dad obviously knows me, so tried to explain, but all that does is just cause a little bit more friction then, because she doesn't feel like she knows me. So it's really important to talk things out, and one of the things I will be doing is getting hold and going out for a day with my mum. So I'm going to take her out, and I'm just going to engage with her, but what I am going to do is be very, very honest, because she doesn't like it when I'm honest, because I do always speak the truth. And for me personally, I think it will make us grow if we do that, because we'll actually start to trust each other. But it's really important. This is where I loop back. I've stepped into my mum's shoes even and gone, these don't fit. But I put knickers. Oh no, sorry. Got to get some banter in there. Jesus. So it's everyone's like, I don't know what to say. I don't know this guy. He's doing what? What with his mother's knickers and shoes? Anyway, no, I'm not. I'm just saying. But I've put myself in her shoes, and I've gone, okay, well, she's had a stressful time at work, and, she's gone through, the stress with my dad and his cancer, and the stress of his 3 children, and, 2 of his boys with depression. And do you know what I mean? She's gone through a lot, postnatal depression with her daughter. So there's like a whirlwind that she's been through, and I respect that now. I didn't respect it before because I needed to heal. So I respect it now. I stepped into her shoes, and I found space to slowly forgive, and we'll move forward. And that's what it's about, building relationships. Communication is such an important thing. I even said it at work today. This guy was like, can I contact you? I was like, mate, communication is the only way we move forward. The reason we have problems in this world is because we don't communicate. Things can be resolved. You go right back to fucking Will Smith, and we'll talk about him because he's recently in the headlines. You go back. If he walked up now and communicated with, Thingy right on the day, Chris Rock, and said sorry, he probably wouldn't have had a harsher sentence. But because he was an arrogant prick, so he didn't communicate. And now he's feeling the wrath of it because everything's falling around from around him, falling down. That's what it's about. You can sit there and manifest a problem that is not actually a problem. It's just your brain's making it a problem. Your chemical makeup is making it a problem. And you're just turning that into resentment, turning that into darkness, filling your brain, putting that fog over your eyes I'm talking about all the time. You're just constantly doing it. So it's really important to make sure that you deal with the resentment. Get rid of it. Promote positivity. It's so important. So important. I'm going to wrap it a little bit there because I want to, that's such a big topic, isn't it? I mean, it's mind-blowing, that topic, really. But it's all of these last 3 have almost been like a 3-parter for me because, they all incorporate that negative thoughts, harbouring negative thoughts, harbouring resentment, not sort of promoting positivity. All these sort of things, it's just all negative. And this is what's happening. We're saying the world can fall out from around you by harbouring negative thoughts, by not going up and just talking to that person. You did this, or you've affected me. And they go, look, do you know what, man? I didn't realise that had affected you. Shit. I'm sorry. I'll make sure that never happens again. Because that's the only way we learn. You know what I mean? You didn't... It's like... How do you think somebody realised, we're going to pump this tyre up? Well, how do I know it's supposed to be 32 PSI? Well, there's someone out there that's probably fucking dead that's gone, well, we don't need to go to that PSI, mate. That's the limit. We'll stick that in the health and safety book for the next man. So somebody's got to do something wrong to learn. But they need to be told, don't do that. So there'll be somewhere in the health and safety book or your service manual that says 32 PSI max, mate. Check it once a fucking week. There'll be something in there that is guiding you exactly how to do it because somebody's not done it, but they've been told and they've written it down and they've refined it. And that's what we do. We engage. We see how the land lies. Can we move forward from this? Oh, no, actually, I'm still a little bit fucking hurt. I'm going to step back a little bit, but carry on to the level we were before. Move in again. Yeah, do you know what? I'm ready. Okay, happy. You're not ready. Okay, well, I'll sit and wait in on your front door, waiting to fucking be let in. You sat there with your party, your disco shoes on. I'm doing a fucking dance now. You're sat there doing that. You're waiting, and then they open the door, and you go in, and you have a cup of tea. You have a cup of tea, you're happy. You're chatting it out. You go away, you hug. You move on. And then you reflect and go, could I see that person again, or is that closure? Nope, that's closure. Fucking brilliant. Move on, delete, remove, let's go. Or, no, we can move past that and we're going to become better friends because we're honest with each other. I now know what hurts you. Really, really important. Really important to nurture that. I've got a little cheeky idea for next week. It's half term for most people in the UK, if you're listening in the UK, which means a lot of people are off. But what I'm going to try and do is, I want to hopefully succeed. I'll do my normal podcast anyway, so it's not a problem, but just to give you, I'm hoping it works. I don't know how it works, but I'll learn how it works. Have a little live event. And I'm going to do these, periodically. I think it's going to be a nice way for me to engage every now and then. You know how I do like the motivational minute? I really enjoy that, and how people can relate to that, and it gets that food for thought. And I started off with a motivational minute this week, and here I am 3 podcasts in going, so it fires, it gets me going. And I think that the next stage for this, the next growth progression for me is, and certainly it will help me, is talking to other people and getting you to understand that there's other people out there that do have these and how they deal with it. Whether they've listened to me and gone, do you know what, I liked what you said there, mate. Let's talk about that. Or how did that make you feel? Somebody just being, I'm not a therapist. I'm not here to be a therapist. But I've got a couple of good friends that I know will jump on board, and we'll make it about talking. We'll make a live session. So it'll be me talking through my normal podcast, motivational minutes, and some sort of the gentleman's chat or something. I don't know. I'll call something. Or come up with an idea. If you've got anyone that's listening who's got an idea for a live show that incorporates the gentleman talk in some sort of context, that would be really amazing. But I'm hoping that that is going to work and going to be pull off. It's going to be absolutely incredible if it does, because I'd like to do that, because it's just like an extra curriculum type thing for me. It's a way of engaging back with my friends, maybe meeting new people, and just basically growing it from there, and it's just something that's been exciting me when I go through my day and I know that I'm going to have my dinner and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to chew the fat with all you. It sort of kind of brings me up, it perks me up, and it's really, really enjoying it. So hopefully if I can do this, stand by. I think I've got a couple of people in mind that will spark up for me, and yeah, we'll just talk, see how it goes, incorporate, get some feedback from you. That'd be really amazing. But thank you for listening, and Easter weekend coming up. Unless you're not from a country that celebrates Easter, and also if you're not listening to this anywhere around the time. So, but for me, it is currently Easter this weekend. But not trying to put a timeline on it, but it's a time of year. So thanks for listening, and I hope that you enjoy your weekends with your families and friends, and don't forget to promote positivity and look after the people around you. Yeah, it's really, really important. Take care, everyone, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye.